All right, welcome back to the We Rock podcast. This is episode Trace, or Trois if you're in South Louisiana. I don't know what other terms you would use for three in other parts of the country. Can you say it in Hebrew or in Cherokee?
I'd get Wes in on the Cherokee, but
one of my favorite statements I make to customers all the time is to lighten the mood about making sure they understand the importance of reading over the contract and reading over names and dates. I always tell them, look, English is my second language. Right. I speak East Texas. So, I also refer to them, tell them, look, my degree is in ag leadership and development. What that means is I can't spell for anything. So,
well, as far as speaking goes, whenever we were testing out the mics a little bit ago and having the issues we had, we switched over to the closed captioning. The fact that it could decipher what I was saying, but
I was rather impressed.
Technology is on the up right now.
Yeah, it is actually rather funny to I can sit here and read them because I've got it still turned on. And it's pretty daggum close. It just depends on what it is. Now, it doesn't like daggum. It says dagger on close. No, it's pretty rough.
It's going to give you a Harris word salad's what's going to do.
There we go. Yep, that's going to be it. So, we'll get some Venn diagrams,
Oh, dude, I love Venn diagrams. The circles, how they overlap. And
they overlap.
Have I ever told you that I like buses? Electric buses. They're amazing.
So yep. That was a great tangent on just everything, right?
Squirrel.
Exactly. Well, that's how things work, right?
Yep. Well, hey, I guess to get back on, let's put the train back on the track. We don't need Buttigieg on this one. We can get it on track ourselves. You just got back from School of Hard Rocks, correct?
That is correct. That was it turned into a week for me. I left Monday evening last week. I promised. In fact, it was interesting because I had SMBA board meeting in the Woodlands on Monday morning, and you were on that Zoom call, but I went down to the hotel and because it's only an hour from the shop, and drove down to there, met with the board members that were present, and had seen the place and saw what's going on. That place is pretty cool. It's very pretty. For those who play golf, of the golf ball type, not the disc golf type. That's a beautiful course. I did notice one of the things that we had a discussion of was there is a lazy river. I did say that we have to make note that the lazy river is of the pool kind, and it is not the water hazard on the 17th green. So
I'm going to end up in both, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm bringing my clubs. I am the worst golfer in the world, but if it's an opportunity to go out and have a few drinks with some friends and enjoy the time, I'm there.
I've been notorious for saying I haven't had golf clubs in, I don't know, it's been 16, 17 years. And a lot of it's because once I bought a motorcycle and I realized I could go out all day long and ride for $20 versus go hit a golf ball and chase a case of golf balls and $100 green fee. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So it just wasn't as much fun anymore. But,
gotcha. Well, you can you can borrow my clubs. It'll be good.
There you go. So no, after going down there to the meeting, we did that and turned around, came back, and then I promised the kids I'd have dinner with them. I left them that, started heading towards Elberton. Stayed somewhere outside of Ruston, Louisiana that first night in Bring Your Own Sheet Suites. I had to ask the guys once I got to Elberton. I said, are any of y'all familiar with those mobile mints, the pillow mints? And I reached down for it, and it just kind of moved on its own. And so,
did the place at least have a decent hourly rate?
Man, yes. As a matter of fact, if you buy in bulk, you get a better rate at that. So, no. So I moved on, got to Elberton a little early, helped the guys set up, Wednesday was really cool. We set up Fish Wish, which is Scott Lucan's walleye carving that he made.
Oh, the one that
Um,
had been vandalized, correctly?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, and come to find out, it had actually been vandalized twice. I only knew about once, but it had been vandalized twice. And so got it back up. It's got a new home, and if you're in Elberton, it is at Johnson Granite Supply. Trip Johnson, you know, decided that he was welcoming it into his place, and it is a great place for everybody to go visit if you're in town. Um, it's where Charlie Hunt had pointed out that Johnson Granite Supply, it wasn't School of Hard Rocks back then; they called it Rock Camp. But
Okay.
the first School of Hard Rocks was held at Trip Johnson's place there, at Johnson Granite Supply,
Gotcha.
and that is where Scott Lucan got his start, or was, as Charlie put it, discovered. And he really kind of went from there. So it's at a great location for it to be and for people to come visit.
Good
We
to
were
hear.
able to dedicate that on Saturday with Angie came in and was present. And it was really good. It was cathartic for a lot of us to do it. I don't do well with public displays of emotion, so I tried to suck it up and walk through walk away whenever those things come up. But no,
Oh, definitely so.
it was very good to.
Well, I mean, just to speak on Scott, losing him was a big hit to, those of us that knew him in the industry and whatnot. And, there's definitely never going to be another Scott Lucan.
That's correct.
I mean, not
Scott
not
was.
not only just in how great he was at his craft, but also just him.
Yes, right. I mean, nobody's going to send us our birthday pictures on Facebook anymore like that. I mean, that was a. But there's little things that as we go throughout the year that I realize that I miss about him. And he would always post, and he was always very good about. He would rib you,
Speaking
but
his mind.
yes, he would rib you, but he was straight with you about what you could do to improve things.
Oh, yes.
I miss seeing the pumpkin carvings that he would put out in October.
Good
For
grief. What he would do with those pumpkin carvings was, and like, I would get mad looking at him as I'm sitting on the floor of my kitchen with a butcher knife, going, screw it. I'm just cutting triangles. I'm done.
yeah, so he would do those pumpkin carvings, and they're phenomenal, and you're just sick to yourself. There was once when one of the Star Wars movies came out, he did a sandblast video of him sandblasting just some random stone. I want to say it was a river rock or something. He sandblasted Darth Vader into it, and just, man, he was just in a league of his own. So there was a lot of Scott stories, as you could imagine. This was the one where the shock had worn off, right? Because the last one we had, it was obviously the day that I arrived to Hard Rocks was the day that he passed. So I mean, obviously we were all in just shock, didn't know what to do. Now it's set in. It's been a year and a half, and kind of starting to move on. But I'll tell you what, it ended up being a great Hard Rocks. They changed up the setup a little bit. I did what they called an AIM, which essentially was I helped teach, which is a bad move. I don't know whose idea that was to have me teach a daggum thing. But we did. Broke up into groups.
Okay, but before you get into all of that,
yeah,
for those listening that have not ever attended a Hard Rocks, what is Hard Rocks?
Okay, so School of Hard Rocks is, think of it as an entryway into understanding your tools, right?
Okay.
Your hand tools, so whether it's a grinder or hammer and chisel, what chisels to use, using drills and feathers and wedges, splitting stones. So my understanding is it kind of really started as a trash into cash kind of thing. So, but fixing bases, right? You got a chip on a base and you got a blown out corner or something like that, how to make it so that you can turn around and sell it instead of just pitching it.
Right.
Taking, if you've got a die where the corner's been blown out, taking that die and making it into something you can actually sell. In fact, one of the presentations this past week was taking Trip Johnson happened to have a just like a 2 foot slant, gray slant that was sitting back there. I guess had gotten damaged in shipping, and that was Mark Lucan, which is Scott Lucan's cousin, took that slant and turned it into a mountaintop shaped marker or slant marker.
Okay.
So it's something that, now I don't know how many mountaintops you sell here in Texas. I've actually had, I've actually sold two, but you get the idea that, I mean, that is where you take those stones and now you can do different things like creating these unique pieces
Right.
for those
Yeah,
families.
we do a little bit of the same here. We do sell some, stones that are shaped to the terrain around us. We do a lot of straight tops.
What do you mean? You don't have any rolling hills?
You got to get a little further away from us before you get in some nice rolling hills.
So yeah, that was a big part of it, was trying to figure out what that's going to look like. How to play with those tools, seeing that you can take a hammer and chisel and make something. So learning the difference between a handset and a chipper and a trace and we call them down here in the South, they're called stun drivers. This is an ongoing discussion between Steve Kaz and myself. Is it a stun driver or is it a rondelle? And I say he's wrong. So he
Yep.
may be using the tool longer than I have, but I actually, I'm sitting here with a mic in front of my face and a little bit of a platform. So I'm going to say that I'm right.
Well, I mean, you do have the platform. Use it.
So, but no, learning what those tools do is a big thing. And so we had people who had never touched a tool before. In fact, my group was, I had 3 guys in my group, and they were all in the same boat. And in fact, I think each one of those 3 bought a full new set of tools to start.
That's great to
Um,
hear.
and one guy who I was just, man, I was so impressed with. He had, in fact, if you go on my page and you see the pictures I posted, he did what looks like a baseball bat sitting on home plate, right?
Oh, and then had like the checkerboard.
Yep, the checkerboard
Yep.
was, whenever you do your different patterns in the field when you mow, that's what that was. It was supposed to be kind of the pattern in the grass as it's been mowed.
Okay.
So that bat started off as almost a life size bat, and he broke the knob off in carving it. And I said, well, let's back up and look at it again. Don't get discouraged. Lucan always said that it's not a mistake; it's a design change.
Right.
So he
Happy
stepped
little
back.
mistake.
Exactly. Yeah, Bob Ross it. So he had he took it and then just shrank the bat down and started working at it again, and then broke the knob off. He did that 3 times, and then each time it got smaller, but never once did he pull off of that thing. He kept going. He didn't lose sight of it. And doing a carving like that, if you've never done it, if you've never touched a tool, is very difficult, right? To do a full round shape, to try and round something out is pretty difficult, especially something like a bat that everybody's familiar with, right? Abstract stuff, you can fudge it and move things, but that's why I don't like doing faces a lot, is because that what a face is supposed to look like. What the inside of an ear is supposed to look like.
Things
So,
that are absolute, like there's no wiggle room to that.
right, and so it's one of those things. He grabbed hold of it, did it, and I was floored because there was no quit. And it immediately, if he didn't live in another state, you kind of go, "Hey, you need a job,"
Right.
because it wasn't, none of that scared him. So that was really cool. We watching that and watching him do that was great. But we had several others that did some really cool stuff. There was several people who took to things like starburst texture, which is extremely common, and they learned from the master. They learned from Jim Gast himself, who taught it out. And was one of the comments I saw from Jim said he had watched somebody do it, and that was the first time, and he was just floored at how well they did. Being the first time they tried anything, and that's it's really cool to watch these new people grab hold of tools and do it. So you realize, what we're doing is still alive, and grabbing hold of our industry and creating something unique and creating something purposeful is still there. There's
Mhm.
still a desire to do it. It's not just gone.
Right.
So, but that was great. It was 3 days. In fact, the at the end of it, there's an award given, and it's a mallet. It's an old school mallet, so it's a wooden mallet, and there's a chip in it. It's a School of Hard Rocks on the end of it, and that's awarded to what is considered best in show, and everybody that's there votes on it.
Okay.
So that particular one was given this year, and I can't remember this young lady's name, but she's, and I'm going to butcher this and probably get in trouble. I think she's 18, 19, 20, somewhere like that, from Colorado. And she spent, I think she said, a month with Troy Caldwell in Indiana as
Oh,
an
wow.
apprenticeship. And so had already had a little bit of experience, but not a lot, right? Just not teaming with a lot of, hadn't done this for years. Just, spent a lot of time doing it with Troy.
Mhm.
So she took what was, it was a wire saw cutout of what would have been a guitar cutout, right? So it would have been the negative piece of what was left over from the cutout. And it was very clearly guitar. So she's looking at it, and I think Charlie had mentioned to her, said, "Well, what do you see here?" She said, "Well, it's a guitar." "Well, no, what are you going to carve?" "Well, a guitar."
Mm.
"Well, no, look at it a different direction. In fact, the story he tells, and if you look at it from this angle, what do you see? He says, "Do you see a catfish?" And she gives him this funny, look, like, "No."
See a guitar.
Yeah, I see a guitar. Inevitably, what ends up happening, and I don't know the rest of the story, how it got to this point, but somehow the neck came off of it, right?
Mhm.
And she turned that guitar into an owl.
Oh, I saw that one. That one turned out real great.
It turned out really great. And then they took another piece and they made a pedestal, right, for it to sit on a post.
Mhm.
And I mean, for somebody who, very little experience in touching tools, to turn it out that and win a hammer is extremely impressive. So she did a great job. Real proud of all those people that showed up. And there wasn't anybody who I felt like was afraid to touch the tools or was afraid to get their hands dirty. You saw a
And
lot of guys who would finish up their projects, and then they would go help out others, or they'd go sweep and help clean up, and just there to be a part of it. And it was
right.
a really cathartic week. It was great to get away and do all that. So I had a great time. Just and good to see people I hadn't seen in a bit. Always enjoy that.
Right.
So finally packed up, and I promised the kids I'd be home on Sunday for dinner, and made it happen. So turn around and get back.
Good deal. Yeah, that's you was talking about one thing that you enjoyed seeing was people that were not afraid to, pick up the tools and get in and go after it. That's one thing that I've seen it, with SMBA, we try to hold a workshop at least once a year somewhere, whether it
Yeah.
be at a supplier that's close enough to us, like in Native, at the Anderson's place,
Hmm.
or even at just one of our shops, if one of us is willing to volunteer to do it. But usually we'll have somebody there, teaching some pretty basic techniques or at least demonstrating them. And there's a lot of reluctance for people to pick up those tools. I mean, you know, and
Well, and I
that
think there's
and I guess my suggestion, if you ever find yourself at a workshop, dive in. Like some
one. I think
people,
that's the key. Is everybody's like, "Oh, I'm going to be embarrassed because I'm not going to be any
yep.
good." Look, nobody's any good. Not
Hmm.
until they try. Not until they put the practice in it. Those tools are unforgiving,
Oh
hands down. I
yes.
mean, but it's understanding that, and understanding that it's a lot like going to the gym, right?
Mhm.
I know that there's those memes that people see out there of people who go to the gym and they make fun of the people who do the gym stuff wrong. But people who really go to the gym and are religious about it love seeing new people in there who are actually putting in the effort,
Mhm.
right? And it's the same thing with the tools. The people who carve and do this, they're not laughing at you by any stretch of the imagination because you've grabbed hold of a tool and you've grabbed hold of it wrong.
and,
Ask them.
and unless as I witnessed at the workshop we had at the Worthingtons, I had some of my guys there with me, and one of them he picked up a chisel and it was doing just some starburst texture,
Right.
and he reared the hammer back just a little bit, gave it the little tank.
Mhm.
It didn't do anything. Then the other guy that I brought with me, he said, next time hit it harder with your purse.
Well, and I mean, there's always going to be that fun and messing with everybody,
Right.
kind of thing going on, and that's a given. That's just kind of being a part of something.
Mhm.
So no, it was we had a great time, and I think people, if you've ever had an interest in it, next time Hard Rocks comes up, sign up, be a part of it.
And sign up
Um,
fast.
yeah, this year filled up. It was the largest class they'd ever done, and it was, I don't even remember how many people were there, but it filled up in 2 hours, and then it was
Wow.
waitlisted. So
Right.
it's but even still, look at workshops. Look for workshops. Get your hands dirty. I know that we tend to do one annually,
Mhm.
and if you want to show up to one for SMBA, it's real easy. Become a member. We do not have borders in SMBA. It's not like the southern border. We don't actually have a wall, so we will take anybody. But come join in, and it's free to come to the workshops. Your membership includes that. So
Right.
that's one of those that has been a great avenue to get people to learn some different stuff. I know that
At least let it be a stepping stone towards going to something like Hard Rocks.
correct.
And you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. Do both.
No, and I'm sure that anybody that has been to Hard Rocks, if I've got time, I'm happy to have people over at the shop from time to time and just play with some stuff. If I had time to travel and go to other locations to teach it, I don't necessarily know that I have a problem with that. It's just a matter of, do you have time and when is it? What kind of lodging are you
Right.
giving? Yeah.
There are some requirements. Lodging,
Yeah, just a little
meals, bourbon, just basics. Nothing over the top.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's not, just take care of me. So no, but again, just to reiterate, sign up, get your hands dirty. Don't be afraid to get dirty. Some of the people there are some people that have signed up that you wouldn't believe that have signed up and done it. But even if you know that, look, I'm just a sales guy, I don't know anything, or I'm just a designer, I'm not going to be doing this. It is important to be able to understand what that rock's going to do when
Mm-hmm.
you put a chisel to it. It is
Absolutely.
not a matter of understanding, well, I'm not going to be the sculptor guy, so I don't need to. Well, okay, except for you're going to draw something up for this family. How do you know that it can be produced? Is it because you've seen it done before, or is it because now you've tried something differently?
Right.
So that is when people ask, really, what is the catalyst that really changed my business? It is that. It's Hard Rocks. 100%. I once I understood what those tools do and what they can do, it was not a matter of can you do this or is this possible? It's, do I want to do it myself or do I want to pay them to do it? Or can I make this stone do this? And how do I start approaching that? Like this year, I decided I was going to do a new task, and I tried to push myself each time and do something a little different. Well, last time I was going to punch a hole through a stone so that there was a void through the middle of it.
Did it hurt your hand?
Yeah. So I failed last time because I didn't leave enough meat on it, and I just got to whacking on stuff, and it broke. I ran a crack through the stone. So this year, I said, "Well, I failed last time. I'm going to do it again. We're going to do this until I get it right." My stone's not the prettiest, but that wasn't the intention. Was not for it to be the prettiest. The intention was, can you do this? And I did. I was able to successfully cut a hole through the middle of a stone, and it's a square hole with an inclusion in the middle of it. So it took me probably a full day to get through it, and then everything else after that was clean up and try and just work it out and make something out of it. But I was very happy with it. Now I know how to do it, and I know how to approach it a lot faster.
Right.
And that was 100% of the key of what I was trying to do. Is just, can you make this happen? And I can.
And this will kind of help us transition over into our next part of this. But taking what you know from Hard Rocks, let's say that you're a first time student of School of Hard Rocks. Come back to your shop. Do you attempt to take some, of course, practice on your own on your scrap. But
Mhm.
then the first time that you meet with a customer that you have an idea, are you going to try to replicate that idea that you have in your mind on a customer stone for the first time? Or are you going to try to take a piece of your inventory, make it into what you want, and then try to sell it?
So for me now, and so that's a complicated question for me to go backwards on. But for me now,
Right.
as I go back, as I think about it, it depends on the complexity of it, right?
Hmm.
I know last year, or the year before, I can't remember which, I had a back to nature boulder that was one of those black stones and had all that finished work on it. That was sitting outside, and I'd finally sold it, and the family wanted um, she wanted a arrowhead on one side and a feather on the other. Well, I've kind of been doing a lot of feathers, so I was comfortable doing the feather just straight on that stone without a problem.
Hmm.
The arrowhead, on the other hand, I was not necessarily comfortable with it. So I kind of drew it out and kind of started thinking through what is my process, and I practiced on another piece. So this is the same stone, right? The feather, there was no, like I said, no hesitation. I went at it with grinders and chisels and cleaned it all up, and it looked great. In fact, to the point where the very tip of it, I left some of the old patina from the back of the stone on there, just to kind of have a different color to the tip of the feather.
Right.
And then on the front side, where we did the arrowhead, arrowheads, or those old flint arrowheads, would have scoops to them where they were chipped out. And so that was some of the stuff I had to work on, was how do I make this chip out and look authentic, but not have grind marks and all that. So some of that I practiced on an old piece with. Yeah,
Okay.
there's got to be some level of I'm not afraid to touch this.
Mhm.
This is some of the stuff that I've talked to you. I mean, and you and I are both good friends with Jonathan Benson, and I'm not throwing him under the bus here or any of this, but as he's kind of stepped up his game, is been obvious to you and I.
Oh,
There's been
yes.
those steps, and we've said, Jonathan, start. As he started with like sandblast.
Hmm.
Start with 2x1 markers. What are you going to?
Oh,
How much is
yes.
it? How much is a 2x1 marker, and what are you going to mess up? It's really not that expensive, and it should have enough margin in there to mess up one. So learn
Right.
it on that.
And even if you mess that one up, for one, it's messed up now. Flip it over.
Correct. And now he's killing it. He's much more comfortable with it. In fact, I talked to him today. He's extremely comfortable with a lot more of what he's doing. He's just backed up. So that's
Mhm.
part of getting better and doing what you're doing and being better than the next guy. Is you're going to be backed up, and in the market we're in now, you're certainly going to be backed up.
Oh,
So,
without a doubt.
but
Without a
no,
doubt.
that's been one of those things. You just don't be afraid to touch stuff and get into it, and grab hold of the tools and do it. It kind of really dives into what you and I decided to talk about today, which is unrealistic expectations, right?
Hmm.
And so, not we talk about it on our end when it's whether it's
Yeah, this
thinking
is a dual edged sword of the conversation, because talking about the expectations, not only on ourselves, but you know how we speak to our families.
right. So the expectation on ourselves is that, oh well, it's got to be flawless, right? Well, some things aren't always flawless as you get started. I mean, you started in 16, and I started
Correct.
a few years before you in 6. So when you look back, you go, those first couple of stones I did, I kind of want to take back and redo them.
Hmm.
Um, but I also have to have the same understanding about the ones I'm doing right now.
Right.
So what
I
my
mean,
customer,
talking about some of the first ones that I did, looking back on that, I could have done so much better.
oh
And
yeah,
but at the time, it was the best I could do. And like you said, that's how we need to approach it now. You need to give it your best
right. And so
and
you
just
look at
keep
some of
getting
this,
better.
yeah, you look at some of this stuff and you go, unfortunately, the customers you first started off with, they end up with stuff that's not as good as the customers who you're doing stuff for now. But the customers you're doing stuff for now should not have stuff as good as the stuff you're doing in 15 years.
Hmm.
Your craft should always be getting better, and that is a huge thing. So we got to manage our expectations as well. But I think what you and I started talking about earlier today on the phone was about the expectations of customers and how they perceive how we should be doing things. And that's one of those things that's just has been, this is those conversations we all have at the conventions. We're sitting around having a drink and, well, I had this one customer and they're the fish stories, right? But that unfortunately
Mhm.
they're not like I once caught a fish this big bragging. It's man, I once had a customer do this. And unfortunately all these stories are true. So,
Right.
we've, I talked about a little bit about this one we've got right now where um, we have a customer who had approached us late last year and wanted us to include something that they had personal into a design for them. And it was something we had in stock, but they wanted to include these personal items into the stone. And we kind of did some research on how to approach these and getting these pieces in because they were delicate. And after doing that, we said, I don't feel comfortable. And you know me, I'll do just about anything. But
Mhm.
this one, I did not quite feel comfortable trying to incorporate this into. It was a bench, so I didn't feel quite comfortable trying to incorporate them because I just wasn't sure of the longevity.
Right.
And so we
That it
informed.
wasn't it wasn't a matter of whether or not you were capable of doing it. It was it came down to what is this going to look like in 5 years, just given the delicacy of, what you were talking about, what you were putting into it.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
it's not
all of a sudden you're the guy on the hook for it.
correct. I mean, you're not. It's not apropos, right? It does not the longevity. Even if it looks good on day one, what's it look like in year five? Or how does it stand the weather or the climate or somebody sitting on it or all of these different things came into mind. And I just was not a fan of that.
Hmm.
But we had emailed them, said, look, we don't feel comfortable doing this. Let's find another avenue. What else can we do? And it was radio silence for months. Well, the deadline that they had asked for this to be installed is coming up at the end of this month. And they finally contacted us last week, said, well, you told me I could get this in by this point. Yes, but there's several issues here. One, we haven't heard from you, so we don't know what to put on the bench. I can't just put something on the bench because I choose to put something on the bench. I need you to sign off on it. I need to know what your input is. And two, you haven't actually purchased said bench.
Right.
I'm not going to just do work for you and you haven't paid for it or you haven't told us you are going to pay for it. I
Yep.
mean, there's no guarantee on my end. You're asking me to do all the stuff, but not giving us any guarantee that we're going to get paid for it.
Right.
So
Need to start the car before you can take it for a drive.
correct. And so that was one of the big things for us is that we see these things where these people have these ideas that, oh, well, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get what I want. I'm gonna get it now. And like, well, wait a minute. I don't go to the flooring store and pick out a tile and say, okay, so you're going to be in my house this weekend, right? No, they've got to get the tile. They've got to find an installer who's got a schedule and they don't know what's going on in these other jobs. There's time frames to this stuff. And I don't understand why the expectation has become such that they think that we are just so quick and on the ball
Hmm.
to just, oh, well, you've walked in the door. I can drop everything right now and go take care of your job.
Right. But what you did correctly is you did your best to try to manage those expectations of that customer by letting them know, in the early stages of that process that, hey, what you're wanting me to do, no, I'm not comfortable with doing this just because of I don't know how the longevity of this is going to be. So then what you did is you threw the ball back into their court. And flip side of that is you could do what unfortunately the trap some people fall into is they still give some positive intentions to that customer saying like, hey, this is something we can do, and just kind of leaving it at that, because then they're just left there, they're just left staring at you saying, okay,
Right.
do it.
Well, and I don't understand where these expectations have started to come from. What do you think of? I've often wondered, is this something? And I think this is a stretch. I really do. I think this is a huge stretch. But do you think that when you watch a movie and you see somebody has died. Blue Bloods has been bad about this over the years, right? Where somebody in the family's died. In fact, there was one of the episodes last season. You hadn't caught up. I'm sorry, but that was
Spoiler
last
alert.
season. You should have been. You should have been watching. One of the season's episodes last season was one of the family members' stones had gotten knocked over, and they're all ticked off, obviously. Well, within the show period, which is like seriously what, a couple of days,
Hmm.
the stone is back up. There's a new stone because this 8-inch thick die that was pushed over has split in half, so we can't use that. And I don't understand how you push over an 8-inch thick die and it just immediately split in half without using a maul and purposely breaking it. But they did, and whoever it was, that shop that was there must have had the exact same design sitting in stock because it was not a standard SERP top. It was something different. And they were able to turn that thing around in 3 days.
It was already stenciled, ready to go.
Right. They didn't have anything in front of it. So I've often
And
wondered, like, is this, and like you see them with the final dates on the shows as well. And like, there's already a final date on the stone at the service.
Mhm.
Really? Like, is this where the expectation comes from for families when they walk in the door and they say, oh, well, you can get this out right now.
And I think part of it is that people truly have no understanding of our business. That they look at our business in the same that they do any other business that they go into, with auto parts, or they're walking to a Walmart or anything. That, I'm ordering this. This is something you have. Make it or give it to me.
Well, right.
And
I mean, even still, like, heck, I kind of thought that we were going to get past a lot of this whenever you couldn't get a refrigerator for 6 months, you know? Uh,
but still, even during that time, I had one particular customer coming in questioning a time frame, and it was of an import piece, and questioning the time frame, which I was still within. And she told me, she said, I just don't understand why it takes you this long to get this. I, told her,
well,
I
and
said,
then,
well, I said, it's just like anything right now. Anything that you want, it's either on back order because, the supply chain hadn't caught up. And she said, well, yeah, I ordered some couches last week and they told me it was going to be 10 weeks before I could get those couches. I said, yeah, it's the same thing. But she turned right back around and said, but I still don't understand why you can't get this done quicker. Why is it acceptable for the couch, but not the headstone?
well, right. I mean, hey, I can't fix your air conditioner right now because you have a capacitor that's out, or, some kind of a resistor that I can't get. Heck, nobody threw a fit whenever you couldn't buy a new truck last year and they were all on back order because you couldn't get microchips.
Right. It's still the same.
I kind of want to start telling people right now that, well, I'm sorry, it's the stones are taking so long because I can't get the microchips for them. I mean, is that at that point in time? I'm kind of wondering, is that the same believability, right? I mean, the people that are going to throw a fit and say, "Well, why isn't the stone here?" Maybe they'll also understand that maybe they'll start to believe that I put a microchip in that stone, and that's why it can't actually have the words for you to read on it without that processor in it.
It's a very complicated process. You wouldn't understand.
So, but where do we fix it? Is there stuff that we can do on our end where we as retailers can mitigate those expectations?
The best thing that we can do is just be upfront and honest. If you, I mean, every one of us knows how long it's taken us to do a domestic piece or an import piece. All of us know. Whenever that customer comes in, don't hide the ball. Be
No,
upfront, because even if you feel tense and you feel like you need to give them towards the lower end of, what your estimated time frame is, all of a sudden you have put yourself under the gun. You have given away your cushion, everything.
well, and
Give yourself that cushion. Don't turn that customer's experience into a bad experience just because you were trying to manage that expectation and try to hem haw around it. Just be upfront and honest about it.
well, that's the biggest thing, right? Is understanding what those expectations of time are. For me, we are already telling families it's going to be 10 months because I know, and that's for the stone. I tell them that's 10 months for the stone to arrive here. It's not 10 months for me to have it in the cemetery.
Right.
It's 10 months for the stone to arrive here. I'm a little bit of a different animal, and not because we do custom pieces or whatever. It's because we sandblast outside. And 10 months from now, we're going to be in January, and what are we going to be looking at weather-wise? So, it can be cold, but it can also be very wet. And so that's one of the things I'm playing into. And I go, expect that stone to be here in about 10 months.
Oh, even whenever like you said, even whenever the stone finally does land on your property, there's still a bottleneck.
Well, right. I mean, so there's other customers whose stones arrived before yours that I've got to get out. And, I've got, it is not just FIFO. It's not first in, first out as far as order numbers go. It's first in, first out as far as whose stone shows up to my shop, and then who's paid in full. Right. Because I want that stone paid in full before I stick stencil on it. I know that's not everybody's thing, but I need that stone to have the stencil on it after I've gotten that check, because once I sandblast it, I'm done. Right. I can't do anything with it. For us,
or the most common thing is can't you just sand it down?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. That's what we
let me get out there with the old DeWalt and slap some sandpaper pads on it, and I'll be back in 10 minutes.
No, right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's just do it your way, because you clearly know more about this than I do. But it's when these expectations come up of, well, why can't you do it this fast? I think some of it is you've got to squelch it. And there's easy ways to do it. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to get everybody to have realistic expectations, but
never.
Got to start somewhere. So. I mean, I've got expectations of what I want out of Whataburger, and it's mostly service, and I want my burger right. And I seem to not get that. So I've lowered my expectations. Perry Giles is fixing to get ticked off.
Oh man, I've lowered my expectations with every fast food restaurant known to man.
And that's okay. Look, so now, and here's the other thing, right? So all of these,
with the exception of Chick-fil-A, those dudes are about.
That's God's chicken. That's different.
Yeah, that's the Lord's chicken. I did see a Whataburger in the same parking lot as a Chick-fil-A. I took it as a sign.
We have that here too. So if it's a multiple, that's got to be a good thing, right?
Right.
So the biggest deal is like now, right? You go to a fast food restaurant, it's $10 for a meal for a burger.
Yes.
It used to be $5, right? Remember the dollar menu? They used to have a dollar menu. And now I feel like you're starting to get to. We know where we're going to be at some point in time as we get older, because I remember $1 gas, and then there's going to be guys who go, "Oh, I remember 30-cent gas," and or I remember when stamps were 29 cents, and now they're, what are they, 66 cents or something like that. So the problem is the price has gone up on this stuff, but the expectation of quality has gone down. So Whataburger may have a $10 burger now, but I'm paying $10, so I'm paying almost twice as much for the meal, and I'm now getting stuff on my burger wrong, or my fries are cold, or whatever. Pick your poison on this.
Oh yes.
And I've always been of the mindset, if I'm going to do something, I know the prices have gone up on us, right? Our stone supplies have gone up, and it was needed. Unpopular opinion here. The granite prices going up now. I think they're probably where they should be, but I think that whenever you've had stagnant price increases over the course of 10-12 years, then things are going to go up. That's just kind of what it is. They need wages and stuff like that. So but in that, now that my price has gone up to my customer, I've got to find a way, and I would say this on all the other ends, I've got to find a way to justify that increase, not just because cost has gone up, but I've got to increase the quality of what I produce and the service that I produce, so that what was at one point in time a $5,000 monument is now a $10,000 or $11,000 monument. Man, if you're going to have to pay $11,000, you're going to really kind of start to cringe and think about it. I've really got to step up my game on what I'm producing, whether that's how we're sandblasting it, the artwork going on the stone, how it's being installed, all that kind of stuff. And that goes back to what the quality of last we talked about last time, which was
Right.
quality of what you're doing. But those expectations are important, right? The customer expectations are important of
Hmm.
what I'm putting out. Now, however, I've got to manage their expectations as well on my end when it comes to what are we doing with how you are perceiving my turnaround times or how
Right.
you're perceiving what I'm showing you, right? Don't
Mhm.
I've got to mitigate that kind of stuff so that you don't just think I'm producing you something in solid gold and then you get something in steel gray granite. And you're going, that's not the same thing.
Right. And it was, trying to manage the expectations of our customers was especially difficult, several months back and even, going into a year back, because at the time we didn't even know what our timelines were going to be. Our
Right.
suppliers couldn't even tell us what some of our timelines were going to be.
Right.
They definitely stepped up and tried to give us the most accurate answer that they could, but sometimes it was, hey, we're waiting on this just like you are.
Oh, and it was so bad as we started the COVID stuff, right? Because it wasn't just a matter of can I get the rock out, right? Or do I have enough staff? It's oh, you know what? My main cutter now on quarantine,
Mhm.
you know, so he's out 2 weeks, and every time that happens, it pushes stuff way back.
Mhm.
And you know, for those of us who, I remember when we had COVID a year and a half ago. I grabbed everything in my office before once I found out she tested positive. I was on a trip. I came home, grabbed a computer, took all the files I needed. I was working from home for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Your stone cutter's not working from home,
No,
you
no.
know, and that's a problem.
And one of the things that I guess is very particular to our industry is there's there has been some automation brought into it, but there's just so many aspects of this of what we do that you can never automate this.
No, that's what
Um,
I
I
love
mean,
seeing
just
that.
yeah, I mean, is it possible? Probably so, but at what cost?
And I love seeing the new videos out where like, oh well, there's going to be these robots that are going to make everything. Well, yeah, those five axis machines are incredible.
Hmm.
What they can do on marble is absolutely phenomenal. But even on the granite, when you look at it on the granite, it still needs somebody who can come back up.
Right.
You, know, you take do me a favor, and next time you think that your tools are strong enough to just do something, take your angle grinder with a diamond blade on it and just rapidly plunge cut that into black stone and see what
Hmm.
happens. Like you tell me if it's good on that machine or not. And you can regulate those machines to do stuff, but sometimes if you want the longevity out of your tool, you
Hmm.
know what the limitations of it are, and you do what it can, and then you allow humans to take care of the rest. But even just pitching stuff, some of it becomes ear, some of
Hmm.
it's feel. But understanding when you see that rock pitch and what it does, now how do you turn around and approach it a
Right.
different way? I mean, how many times have you and I talked about Miami guys are just farming engineers trying to find other ways to do stuff,
Right. But and like whenever you start to break down every part of the process, I was talking with Ed Anderson one day, and he said he had figured it up one time, and I know I'm probably wrong on the number, but he said he had figured up that by the time a piece of rock lands at one of our doors, us as retailers, he has figured up that that stone has had to been moved or had somewhere in the neighborhood of like 45 moves or 45 processes done to it
Jeez.
before it ever reaches our door.
One of those steps costs money.
Right.
It's not so cut and dry.
Hmm.
You know? We're just go pull out the forms and melt this stuff down and pour it into this form,
I actually had a customer that believed we formed them.
right? This is where
One-
3D printing has become a problem with it. So,
yeah. Look,
or
give me
the
the,
concrete countertops, right? You're like, oh, I've got concrete countertops. How's it any different?
oh, well, talking about concrete, now we have one of these businesses here in our town that they do the boulders, but it's all concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And they've even started to dip their toe into the cemeteries now. And
Well,
it
your
looks
cemeteries are allowing it.
terrible. I've got it reversed on one, and another one I'm working on.
Yeah, our cemeteries aren't allowing any of that. They, in fact, there was one that was one of those veneered Mexican stones. You know, the ones that have the styrofoam center and it's countertop material on the outside.
They look great in a few years.
Oh yeah, dude, just I love seeing those because that means it's a sale in the future.
Right.
So yeah,
You're not
many
going to
of
go
our
back out there and put it together.
yeah, just like I'm going to go install something that was sold online. I'm going to do that too.
Hmm.
That I'm sure that'll be a topic for another day. Are you installing those online sold things? So there we go. Manage the customer expectations with that. Hey, I bought this monument online, and here it is. I need you to go install it for me because the cemetery won't let me.
Well, talking about the online and managing expectations, they're really good about telling their potential customers. We work with monument companies all the time. They'll be more than happy to set it. You just give them a call as soon as you get it. And then
Yeah.
and then you get that phone call or you have them actually come to your location. And then all of a sudden you're the bad guy because you won't do it. And it's one of those that if they had been truthful with them in the beginning, it might have gone a different way.
Yeah. We had one recently where the gentleman had been talking to us about a design. He'd originally bought the stone from the Ukraine, and it got over here. One of the other young companies who I know, and they're good. He's a good guy, but he's a young guy. Um, said he would install it, and I'm not. I believe that when he opened up the crate, it was broken. But he took the blame for it, all that kind of stuff, and paid the guy back and all this. Anyways, long story short, the gentleman calls me and says, "Hey, can you replicate this?" And um, I said, "No, we don't do that. We don't replicate somebody else's art. We can show you something similar and all that kind of stuff." We wasn't happy with that, so he went on down the road. He said, will you install something if I buy it online?" And we said, "No, we don't do it either." So fast forward to um, he goes, "Well, I found one here at this other monument shop. Will you install it for them?" And I said, "Well, we will install monuments for other monument companies, but that has to be negotiated through them."
Hmm.
"Well, how much is that going to cost us?" "That's negotiated through them. You will pay them for the stone. You will pay them for the installation. You will pay them for the delivery. They will deliver it to us." "Well, I can put it in my truck and bring it to you." I said, "No, it will all be handled through them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you show up here in my shop with it in your truck, I can promise you it will sit in your truck. I'll pick it up."
You're right.
So, and that was managing. Now, we haven't heard from him since. I don't really, this gentleman has been kind of an epic,
Has he been rude?
he's been a sphincter to Janine, my office manager. And look, if you're going to do that to my folks, you're not any one of them. If you're going to act like a rectum clown in my shop or to my people, you will catch all unholy hell. I don't put up well with it.
Oh, and nobody should ever.
No, no.
I
So,
mean, I'm always willing to have a conversation with you, but the moment you want to cross that line, politely
yeah,
but firmly, you'll be asked to leave, and you're welcome back whenever you want to continue this in a civil matter or
correct,
manner.
correct. But no, I think that pretty well wraps up today. I know that's a cliffhanger, right? But that's managing those expectations is a huge thing, and I don't think we're ever going to solve those problems as to what they need to be.
Oh,
But I think it's a start, and I love that conversation because one, you get to hear the interesting stories, but two, it really gets us to start thinking outside the box as to what we can do to help manage all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So no, on a separate note, what's actually been rather cool is while I was on that trip at Hard Rocks, Emily had told me that the kids were listening to the podcast at night. So apparently, our show is good enough to put my kids to sleep. So that if you wanted to know how exciting we were, that's it. That's where we are.
So should we put a disclaimer on this from now on that do not listen to while driving or operating heavy machinery?
Yeah, probably should start there, right?
All right.
But we did get a few people while I was out there that had mentioned listening to it on the way and all that kind of stuff. So this is whether they're just here to watch the train wreck or they're enjoying it. We don't know which, but I'm here for it.
Right. No, we definitely appreciate all the feedback that we've got from, quite a few folks out there. And just like you said, if there's anything anybody ever has a question about, reach out to us. We're more than happy to bring it up, make an entire topic out of it if necessary. That's where all this comes from. This comes from all of our stories.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to a lot of what's coming up. And we talked last time about the convention one where we live doing at the convention. Actually, what I'm hoping we can do is, as part of that, invite some folks that are at the convention up to the mic and have them kind of tell us what they're getting out of the convention, what they'd like to see, what they're enjoying, and also talk to some of our vendors as well as to what's coming up.
Oh yeah, we're gonna put some people on the spot.
Oh, 100%. What I'm hoping I can do is just run around with the laptop and the microphone looking like a moron and chasing people down like a man on the street kind of thing. So that would.
We just need to get the hotel to let us have like a cart so we can just push it around.
There we go. It's like what the doctors use. Just kind of walk around with that. It's like, yeah, we need to ask you a few questions, please.
All right. That one we might have to check the box before we upload it that it will contain explicit
content. Well, if there are a handful of people that if they're in the vicinity, I would guess that's going to be the case. Like people from Provençal, Louisiana, maybe.
Not naming any names.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Never.
I wouldn't be so specific as to say somebody like, I don't know, Campbell or something like that. That would be just wrong.
No.
So
no.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you kicked Wes out of the office at this
point. Right. I'm hoping to, continue to grow this, continue to get it out there, continue to get people engaged, and maybe we can pick up a Bud Light sponsorship. I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah, let's that'll tank it quick, won't
it? It'll get us out there to a new demographic.
Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, it seems to work for that individual, right? I mean, it's get all kinds of sponsorships, and then they're rocking and rolling. Now that the audience of Bud Light seems to be crashing fairly quickly, and maybe that's a topic for another day. Is who are you publicly supporting as a business?
Bingo. Well, before we can go further down that rabbit hole.
Oh man, yeah. Before we get ourselves into a lot of trouble here, let's maybe wrap this one up, huh?
Yeah, we can go ahead and end it. And as always, appreciate y'all listening. Look forward to hearing from y'all. Tony, always good to talk to you, bud.
Enjoy and happy Easter to y'all because we are recording this on Thursday before Good Friday. So Good Friday and happy Easter and look forward to seeing y'all and talking to y'all again.